I'm here this morning just to give, further to the signing of the amended Student Loan Act yesterday by Mr. President. I feel that it's an opportunity for me to just share my views with, gentlemen of the press, and also to express my thanks. First, to Mr. Speaker, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, PhD, for finding me worthy, and other members of my committee to be the pioneer, chairman and members of this reading, public hearing, and then the third reading, and then passage. And then Mr. President also created the time yesterday to sign it. So I need to use the first start by giving a note of appreciation to all those that have made this possible. Of course, the bill has introduced significant and game-changing things into the Nigerian education sector, which I know that some of us will have been aware of. But so it's also important that we should use this opportunity to underscore the essence of what Mr. President did, by bringing this bill again. You will know that, you remember that on the 12th of June, 2023 was when the first bill was signed to law. And a lot of activities, a lot of things were being done at that time for the bill to take off. For the fund to take off. But this was not possible because of the challenges that the then law had, the one that had been repealed now. It's often said that a great leader is a visionary with a poor sense of fear. One of the things we were bothered about, because when at the House of Representatives, we were having discussions with the Speaker that there are quite a number of things that need to be changed, amended in this law in order for it to be operative. And as we were thinking about that, we got a call that even the executive was thinking along that line. Despite the fact that a day has been fixed for 14th of March for the launching of the fund. But despite that, I think the patriotism in the executive and Mr. President still made him to go ahead and introduce those changes. It would have been possible, for example, to be afraid of what the gentlemen of the press will say, that after a date has been fixed for launching, and then you are now, introducing amendment again, and all of other things that we all know about politically. But I think the patriotism, and the determination to make sure that this is a sustainable, structure, still made the executive and Mr. President in particular to still go ahead and present those far-reaching amendments which have now become law. So it is important that as we are looking at those advantages, we also look at the lesson to be learned from that. Because to me, it is a great thing that, despite all of that, we still have, those changes brought. To cut the long story short is that now we now have a law. The law has, of course, amended so many shortcomings in the 2023 law in the area of the kind of fund that we have. Now we have a standalone corporate entity that is called Nigerian Education, Trust Fund. We now have it. We now have a law that is not talking about discrimination in terms of who gets what. The other law says that unless your parents, if your parents have combined revenue of 500,000 naira, you are not going to be able to entitle to the law. All those have been removed. All those areas of guarantees and some of those other provisions have been removed. So to a large extent, we now have a Nigerian Education Loan Fund that it is strong, it is sustainable, it is comparable to what we have in different parts of the world, and given all the other things that will come into it. Of course, the next step now is for the management to be announced, and then the management start work, and then we now go into the operation proper. But I am convinced in my mind, and I am satisfied in my mind, that the Nigerian government, under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu, has done so well for the Nigerian education sector. This is definitely not the solution to all the problems of that sector, but definitely this is one of those solutions, that can provide a leeway for us to have a virile education sector in Nigeria. So it is on this note that I said that let me just come here this morning to express my appreciation, like I've said, also to highlight some of these things that I've said, and also to listen to you. Maybe there are one or two areas that you may want to ask, at least as far as I know from the legislative arm, that I can throw light on, so that the public can be appropriately given information about this. So that is exactly why we are here this morning. So once again, well, to start from the Vanguard, timeline for commencement. That is going to be wholly in the hand of the executive. I think that what I expect to happen any moment from now is the announcement of the management. The law provides for part 2 of the law provides for an MD, 2 EDs, and then a secretary. And of course, they will now form the management. Of course, there's also a provision that capable hands can be drawn from CBN and some other agencies that they believe they have the capacity. So the first is that, and like I said, given the way all of this has happened and the urgency and everything that has gone into it, if not for Mr. President's trip to Senegal on Tuesday, I think this bill will have been the first thing to be done this week. We tried everything to last week, but for some little changes. So everybody is in a hurry to get it done. So I also like to believe that, that will come up. And once that come up, of course, I also expect that they'll be giving marching order for them to start. I'm not speaking for them, but I imagine, top of my head, that, by the beginning of the next session, I imagine that, it must be close to starting. I mean, it must be. That's my gut feeling. But like I said, you may not quote me, but that's what I think, given all that happened to it. Then my brother talked about the issue in Christ. Well, the issue about this thing is that education loan has both economic and social part of it, and that is how it is everywhere, and that is why it has subsidy embedded in it. The fact that the loan is interest-free already makes it subsidy. Imagine somebody taking a loan and then, you are supposed to be repaying when you have the capacity to repay, and yet you are not paying any interest on it. So that tells you that there's a lot of, so if you get to a point and you also need to do some write-off, it's also part of the social cost that is necessary, particularly once the person reaches a particular age and is yet cannot fully pay. So no matter whatever it is that is happening, around, and there are so many things. We are talking of thousands and millions of students that needs to be supported, with facilities, and which they would take, and then they start repaying. So it's bad to have all of this, but I still feel that it is one of those solutions to, of course, the scholarships, the grants, the aids, all of those ones are still there. Maybe not in the quantum that it was before, but the fact that we need something that is sustainable, something that generations can also enjoy from, would that be, which is the major essence of this, is also something that we need. So whatever it is happening in US, which I think I also read part of it some time back, that has not discredited the scheme. I think what it's saying is that there are challenges. There are challenges everywhere. America does not necessarily have the best of what we have. We lost one of our best in Nigeria to a plane crash there a few months ago, and yet a few other things. So there could be challenges. That does not necessarily mean that we have, in some other places we have the same thing. So my answer to that is that I'm aware of that, but that has not taken away the benefits of a loan scheme, or to students, so that they can be able to live a life and also be able to do the kind of, courses they have. I think what is important is for us to learn from some of those. I mean, this thing has been in existence since about 1951 in Colombia and India. And, some of those places, they are still having it. It's quite popular in Latin America, but some time before it moves into other parts of the world. And in some of those places, they are still having it. Of course, it has evolved over time. Those are the kind of things we also expect. Unemployment issue, yes, that is an issue. Our prayer is that we'll be able to produce the right kind of people that can add to this economy in a way that the economy will be able to generate a lot of employment. And don't forget that what this particular law rather, covers both tertiary and skill and vocational education. So they are all covered under it. And the law also make provision. Repayment is due immediately you finish school, but it's not going to be pursued until 2 years. You are not going to be, asked, until 2 years. And if after 2 years of youth service, you still don't have a job, you can still, so signify. So there are a lot of inbuilt provisions within the law to take care of some of those things. And we don't pray and expect that the unemployment level will continue the way it is in the country, because it is not out of what to do. It is out of us being more productive, so that all our productive sectors can be woken up, so that we can be able to get a better nation. So I think the third one is private tertiary institutions. Well, the thing about, and I think that's also very close to Mr. Akintola's question. I think the thing about that is that for anybody that has the capacity to send his or her children, or his or her, children to schools to some of those private schools, you agree with me that the need for a loan of this scheme is probably minimal. It's probably reduced. So, but talking seriously, one thing that I know is that if you look at Section 2 of the law, what that thing says is that the Nigerian Education Loan Fund is set up to manage, group of funds. This is a group of fund. This is a particular stream of fund that is meant for public tertiary education. I know that thoughts are on to see what can be developed for private. The provision of private may not be exactly what is in the public, because if you are talking of school fees, if you want to fund the school fees of a private student, one private student, school student, you probably fund about 100 of a public school, and we want to give this to a larger number of people. But be that as it may, I think they are all, because the law also covers both school fees and the maintenance. So even if you are not entitled to school fees, you should be entitled to maintenance as a Nigerian student. That is what I think. But the summary of it is that Section 6 of the law provides that the board will, from time to time, at least once a year, reel out the guidelines for the loan every year. It is that guideline that will actually give the more details about some of these things and some of these conditions. But during the sessions, particularly after the public hearing, that we need to do a technical session on it that runs into several hours. These are some of the things. These issues actually came up. The issue of private school, and I think that is what is being looked at. That in terms of private, maintenance, they should be entitled to it as a Nigerian. But for school fees, I think it might have to be another class of fund, which is not there for now. So the loan, in summary, is taken off with public tertiary institutions. When sometime later they can go into the other one. There was also the question on assessing the loan, the condition, the bottleneck, and the institutional challenge. Well, the conditions and the bottleneck, that is what this law has tried to remove. And that is why the issue of guarantors were removed, because we all know, if you want to get a guarantor today, maybe you want to do bail bond or something in one of our courts and you need guarantor, there are people that are there that they will come up as, they will appear as your father and mother and everything, there and then. So why are we bothering our head with? So some of those ones have been removed so that, and in this age of technology, and knowing that these are the youths, these are people that are knowledgeable, some of those institutional challenges too, we should be able to circumvent them, because most of it, I know, will be online, will be tech-based. So some of those challenges too, I also imagine that we'll be able to circumvent them. The repayment is another issue. Well, the issue about repayment is that in the first instance, Section 29 of the law says that if, as an employer of labor, before you employ, once this law comes into being, before you employ anyone, you must check or ascertain the education loan status from the fund. So immediately if you don't, there are penalties for it. Both in terms of payment and also fine and also imprisonment. So the essence is to ensure, and if you are a private person, you also then become an employer of yourself. And if you don't do it, there are also laws against it. And don't forget, as we go on, the whole things that are coming together. By the time they say that if you cannot, you need to get the loan status confirmed before you can do A or B or C within government. All of those things are meant to be able to put checks and balances in place. Oh, of course, there might still be a little people that will be able to circumvent all of this, but we believe that over time, the management should be able to bring up all manners of things to be able to take care of that. The last one from Mr. Akintola, I think I answered it partially when I was talking about the private. He's talking about the discrimination with the private institutions, and I say that for that, this loan is taken off largely with the students of public institutions, but of course, I think the government also realized that even those in private institutions are also Nigerians, and to that extent, they also should be able to entitle some things, but what will have to be determined by the guideline when it is finally put in place. I think those are the 6 questions that we have thus far.